Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Gary Edelman, American Battlefield Trust. We got Ray behind the camera. We're here with Daniel Goyer here at the Port Hudson State Historic Park. So excited to be here. We hope you've already watched our other video in which we sort of set up the campaign for Port Hudson. We're talking about May, June, July of 1863 with some stuff going on before and after as well. And we sort of set it up to where some of the fighting had started. But the most intense fighting happened, I think, at least around this area in both main Union attacks. Where are we, sir?
We are at Fort Desperate, and this is where the 15th Arkansas under Colonel Ben Johnson, with elements of the 1st Mississippi Light Artillery and 1st Alabama infantry regiments, are defending this position on this kind of knoll, this high point with ravines descending all around towards the creek.
Good. So, and then who are they facing? Let's take it one at a time. The May 22nd attack. What are we talking about here?
We're looking at the Union Division under General Grover.
Okay, Cuvier Grover. Makes him super fancy,
Yes.
By the way. I wonder if there's any Cuviers out there. Put it in the comments. Okay, so Grover's attacking, but this is part of what's supposed to be at least a larger attack, right? Aren't all the Union soldiers, tens of thousands of them, supposed to attack?
So this is kind of the far left of the Union attack on May 27th, at least this portion. There was another section, what's known as the Slaughter's Field, under Sherman, General Sherman.
This is Thomas
and
Sherman.
No relation either. But he's making another attack later in the day. It was supposed to be at the same time as this one, but it occurs later in the day, south of here a couple miles.
Yeah, and at Fort Babcock, remember, we also talked about the Louisiana Native Guard as well.
Yep.
So it's even going on even further as well.
Yep, all the way to that side.
This is a massive attack going on here. Okay, so set us up for the attack. The Union is going to make this attack. This is called Fort Desperate. I guess it was a close thing for the Confederates?
It was. Yeah, there were actually just under 300 soldiers defending this position. Now they actually don't have a lot of defenses here initially. So on May 21st, as late as that, May 21st, there's nothing here. Colonel Johnson is sent here with his troops, and they are expected to throw up some defenses very quickly. It's not long after that that they're completely surrounded on May 23rd. And of course the attack's on May 27th, so just a few days later. So they get to work heavily digging and making this position here. And they have skirmishers out, the 1st Alabama. They're out skirmishing, trying to delay the approach of the Union forces to give them time to complete the work here.
And let the record show that I think on the last video and this one, I think I've called this attack May 22nd 2 or 3 times, and Daniel is too nice of a guy to correct me while it's on here, so I appreciate that, but it's supposed to be the 27th. Okay, so eventually the Union is making this fierce attack, but somehow this Confederate desperation pays off for them.
Yeah, so the guys here, they put up a pretty amazing defense with what little firepower they have, because they're not aided by any artillery. Early on, one of the 2 cannons that the 1st Mississippi Light Artillery has here gets knocked out. In that photograph, that's that 12-pounder field howitzer.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, because I think there's, and by the way, if you're interested in Civil War photography, there's a newish book out by Larry Hewitt, Lawrence Lee Hewitt, good friend, and he's done a great job assembling all the Port Hudson stuff, and he's done a great job putting them together into a book. And there's a photo taken from right over there, looking this direction. Okay, so the Confederates hold on. I understand they're like putting wood over them, like to prevent it from fire, and you can see some of that stuff in the photo.
Yes, archaeologists, of course, and from the photos, you can see where they've actually dug kind of trenches underneath here and have wood covering those positions. Yeah, they're getting heavily shelled here. The Union artillery is no more than just a few hundred yards down this path here. Big rifle cannons just constantly shelling this location. And like I said, there's no artillery here, no artillery support for the Confederates. They're all armed with smoothbore muskets. And so they have to basically sit here and hunker down, take the assault until the Union forces get close before they can fire back.
Okay, and then so this attack for the Union fails, and we're talking about some lopsided casualties, to say the least. Off the top of my head, there's thousands of Union killed, wounded, captured, or missing, and there's only hundreds of Confederates.
Right. Yeah, so on this day, on May 27th, I think you have 75 guys here, total casualties, not killed, but that's killed, wounded, and captured here inside Fort Desperate.
Good, okay.
And several hundred out there.
Okay, and then here at Fort Desperate, there's going to be a few-week period where there's not a big Union attack, although there's skirmishing and sharpshooting and everything going on in the meantime. The Confederates strengthened his position during that time.
Right, they continuously work and add on to these works here to increase their defenses. And like you said, again, a couple weeks later on June 14th, another major attack is made.
And off the top of my head, that's like Payne, then Weitzel, and maybe sort of Auger and Dwight are supposed to attack, and maybe they sort of do.
Yeah, they do. So yeah, you have Payne just south of here, and Weitzel, and they attack, and some of that spills over the creek, and they attack Fort Desperate again. This is really the only location in the entire battlefield that was attacked heavily on both major assaults.
And this one was like the May 27th attack. It's not the 22nd. Of course, everybody knows it's the 27th. This was like that in terms of the casualties, right? Again, lopsided. Confederates have to be feeling good, but they're still losing. They're still under siege. They're, reduced to eating their mules and rats.
Right. And by the end of the siege here, by July 9th, there's only Colonel Johnson only has about 125 guys that are available for duty out of those initial 300.
Oh my God. And overall, I think General Gardner is also pretty low on soldiers at this point, and it's even worse because on both sides they're suffering from so much disease and so much hunger that the able ones are punished by having to pull longer shifts in the trenches. So it's just a terrible situation, and eventually the Confederates do hold out to the end until there's no reason to hold out any longer.
Yeah, once word reaches here that Vicksburg is surrendered, there's really no point in continuing on. So they do. General Gardner does approach General Banks for confirmation first, because they're hearing from soldiers over the parapets that Vicksburg is surrendered, and of course the Confederates, they don't believe it. But so he asks for a confirmation. He receives it, and so he does have a meeting with Banks, and on July 9th they officially formally surrender.
And I think I read, maybe you could help me with this, but only something like 60% of the Confederates were able to stand for the surrender. That's the condition they were in.
Yeah, they were extremely weak, and most of them were sitting down while waiting to be processed and paroled.
Wow. And I would say that, like at Vicksburg, these are soldiers who had to make the attempt. Nobody would blame them for making it, and they would be blamed if they didn't make the attempt. I think Lincoln put it that way to Pemberton after Vicksburg. That's the position these Southerners were in. They had to do it. So eventually, here's another Union surrender, Fort Donelson, and then you got Vicksburg, then you got Port Hudson. For long, you're going to have Appomattox and, Bennett Place and whatnot. So this is an important one here. In Port Hudson, now the Union moves in, and they're going to be here for a couple more years.
Yeah, they're actually here until July of 1866, even a year after the war is over with. They maintain a garrison here. They actually construct a smaller set of works around the town of Port Hudson, right on the bluffs, right on the river. And it's manned based almost essentially with all of the African-American troops that are raised and trained, and this kind of becomes like a training base for them. And they get sent off to various different battles throughout that time, off to Blakely and a place over in Texas as well.
Good. And you, the members of and supporters of the American Battlefield Trust, have helped us to be able to work with the park here and preserve some of that campsite where some of these USCT troops were actually trained and whatnot. And, we also have pictures of this sort of post-battle, post-siege Fort Hudson, and we'll try to flash those up. They're pretty rare. We'll see if we can find some and put some of those up. But I just want to stress that in 2 videos out here, and we're here for a total during 160. These are busy guys, Ray and Daniel, during 160 here, that we're just spending a little bit of time out here when nobody else is around us, and we are not even scratching the surface. The only way to do it is to come here, check this out for yourself, walk the trails, see some of the cool river fighting that they have with the little remote controlled boats. You just have to come here. Daniel, anything else to add?
No, we just really appreciate y'all's support, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with y'all.
Yeah, and what a great partner. We couldn't do what we do without great partners like the state park here. So thanks to you. Thanks to Ray behind the camera. Thanks to everybody here at the park. And thank you all for supporting battlefield preservation and, of course, education.